In Matthew's Gospel, in chapter 28, beginning in verse 18, Jesus said, "All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And you teach them to observe all things, whatever I have commanded. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." I'm interested in the language of Jesus when Jesus says we are to be making disciples of all the nations. However, my question is, how can we make disciples of other people if we ourselves are not familiar with what it takes to be a disciple of Jesus? Let's think about that concept of discipleship. To be a disciple of Jesus means to be both a learner and follower of Jesus Christ. So I must ask myself the question, am I willing to learn from the sayings of Jesus? And also ask the question, am I willing to follow exactly what Jesus taught? Let's look at some of the sayings of Jesus, some identifying marks that Jesus said would make us true disciples of Him. The Gospel of John, chapter 13, and beginning in verse 34, Jesus said, "A new commandment I give to you. You are to love one another as I have loved you. And by this shall all men know that you are my disciples, if you have love one for another." Sounds like to me that Jesus is saying His disciples will love the way He loved. Another identifying mark, Jesus still in the Gospel of John, this time chapter 15, beginning in verse 8, Jesus said, "By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, and so shall you be my disciples." Seems like Jesus is saying there that His disciples will bear much fruit. We need to think about being zealous in serving Jesus. We need to think about growing spiritually to the point that we're able to serve others the way Jesus served. Also look at your character. Do you produce the fruit that Jesus produced in His life? Goodness and love and mercy. One final mark that identifies us as true disciples of Jesus, Jesus said in the Gospel of John, in chapter 8, in verse 31, "If you abide in my word, then are you my disciples indeed." Think about that abiding kind of language. Jesus says His disciples will abide in His Word. To abide in the Word of Jesus Christ means to let the Word of Jesus rule in your heart. It means you study the Word, you meditate on it with a desire to be obedient to it. Think about the concept of being both a learner and follower, a true disciple of Jesus Christ. Think about what Jesus said, some of His sayings, and ask yourself the question, am I really a disciple of Jesus Christ?